Mike Tomlin got yet another winning season with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get past the wild card round as they lost to the Ravens in the playoffs. Now the Steelers go into the offseason needing a quarterback and several other needs as well. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down Pittsburgh Steelers 2025 offseason and what you could expect to see them do over the next couple months. But before I get into that, if you like the content that Ryan and I put out and you want to help the Tracy Take channel grow, easiest way is by subscribing to the Tracy Take, leaving a like and a comment. Let us know what you want to see the Pittsburgh Steelers do this offseason. And Ryan, let's pull the slides here. Very interesting season for Pittsburgh Steelers. Like defensively, I think they were once again one of the better defenses. They had a very solid defense as well. They need to improve a little bit on the secondary. But they also had some injuries on that side as well. So like Joey Porter Jr., I think he played a decent bit this year, but he definitely wasn't at like 100%. And so, but maybe they could also get some other help as well in the secondary. Big thing though, this offseason is going to be the offense. So obviously going to start off with the quarterback. They brought in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson took over, and for about a month, I would say, I think mid-October to mid-November, late November, things were going really well for Pittsburgh, and Russell Wilson was commanding the offense well. Nothing great, but it wasn't like the Russell Wilson from a couple of years ago. But then when George Pickens got hurt, that offense definitely seemed to be vulnerable. And the offense I actually don't think they won a game since he got hurt, even when he came back. I could be wrong on that. But they lost about 5 in a row to end the season, including the wild card. And now they're going to have both quarterbacks hitting free agency. Jalen Warren is going to be a free agent. Pretty sure Najee Harris is also going to be a free agent as well. I know that's on the next slide. You don't really have a clear receiver too. George Pickens is an interesting guy to go along with. It's like he's their clear number one. Ryan, what do you think is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers' first move that they address this offseason?
I think it has to be bringing back Najee Harris. In my opinion, he's like they had the 11th best rushing offense in the NFL. That offensive line had a big part to do with it, but also I think you go look at Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. That was a really good running back tandem. This is a deep running back class, so I think if you bring back Najee Harris, you let Jalen Warren walk where he can go get maybe a more prominent role in another offense. That might be a mutual parting of the ways there in that situation. But outside of that, you need to improve this secondary. That's going to be key. It didn't help. TJ Watt was playing through injuries there at the end of the season. I laughed. This was like usually like the Steelers are like 5-7 going into the last 5 weeks of the season, and then they go on this like 5-game win streak to not go below 500 for the first time in Mike Tomlin's career, and like they barely make a wild card spot. And this was like they were in the division race for the whole season, and then like and then totally collapsed in on themselves there at the end. So it was like the complete opposite of what I'm used to seeing out of these Steelers teams. But all in all, like this is still a good team. They're still well coached. I don't think this is going to be a great offseason in terms of being able to improve the quarterback position. I think Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, like those are two of the more prominent free agent targets in this free agent class. Like I guess you could maybe try to swap those guys out and go get a Sam Darnold or maybe trade for a Kirk Cousins, but that's going to require either a lot more money or draft capital that I just don't know if you want to spend when you could bring those guys. We could bring Russell Wilson back at a veteran minimum and keep him there and have some continuity at that position. So that's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of navigate that quarterback spot. But all in all, like it's still a good, well-coached football team, and they were on the cusp of competing. They just kind of fell off at the end of the season due to some injuries and some inconsistent play. So let's get into some of their free agents. It's a long list here, so I'm not going to read it all. But Dan Moore, the left tackle, this one, so he was their starter for most of the season, but Troy Fautanu got hurt and he did not play a lot. So like he is, I believe, was the starter and then got hurt, and then Dan Moore replaced him.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure he was the right tackle. I'm pretty sure Dan Moore was
Broderick Jones was the right tackle.
Well, I think because Troy Fautanu got hurt.
Oh, I thought it was Troy Fautanu was the left tackle. Broderick Jones was the right tackle. I could be wrong about that. Steelers fans, leave a comment down below. But Dan Moore, we'll see if they bring him back. They have a couple young tackles there that could fill in for that role. Van Jefferson is another one. Najee Harris, Mike Williams, Landon Roberts, Russell Wilson, Jalen Warren. A lot of guys there that were kind of key contributors to this offensive defense for this team, and then a lot of other kind of rotational pieces that would come in and provide some meaningful snaps, but kind of guys that you see like get exchanged throughout a lot of off seasons.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of role player guys here that I think that they can go and replace it. To me, I think when you look at the team needs and I look at this free agency, the free agents that they have here, I get your points about the running back. But to me, I think you got to figure out the quarterback position because they're not. It's not like there's a stud free agent that they can go out and get. Maybe they go get Sam Darnold, but you'll be paying him $40 million. And to me, I think you can get Justin Fields for pretty cheap at the same time. I think he went 4-1, 3-1 during his time there, or maybe even 5-1 before Russell Wilson came in. And I think you move on from Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, you get him for cheap, and you can use a lot of that money to build up the offensive line. They had a bunch of injuries that occurred for Tano, as you talked about. James Daniels, he was a guy, he had a season-ending injury as well. Keep building that up there. And I see your point about Najee Harris, but I also think, too, I feel like the Steelers franchise would be one like, no, we're just going to go draft a couple of rookie running backs, and that's just what we're going to do. They definitely could. And so, because I think, to me, you almost need to build from like the inside out, and maybe free agency you can come in and bring in another receiver as well, like another clear number two. I see these reports of the Steelers trading George Pickens, and I would get that if there are internal things that are going on and they don't want to have to deal with it. But at the same time, though, too, he is kind of your only guy, if we're being honest, especially, too, with Van Jefferson, Mike Williams, Scott Miller, any other receivers I'm missing here, Michael Pruitt. I know he's a tight end. Then you have your other skill position players. You have Pat Freiermuth, yes, and he's a very solid, consistent tight end, but you can't count on him for the big explosive plays like how George Pickens can get. Now, is that like the main thing George Pickens provides? Absolutely. But I think you can go in and get a good compliment for him here in the draft, picking 21st overall. This is going to be kind of a perfect spot for you to go get an Emeka Egbuka or to go get a Luther Burden. There's like what every mock draft is probably pitching to them right now. But if they don't want to go that route, I think there's some interesting guys in day two that they can go after. They had the 52nd and 83rd pick. And so a guy like Jack Beck, I think a guy like Savion Williams, maybe a guy like Jaden Higgins, who you really like. Maybe Xavier Restrepo would be a good option in day two, who'd be much more of a slot guy if they want to go that route. Jalen Royals, I think, would be phenomenal. Something consistent with whichever quarterback that they bring in, because even if it is Justin Fields, heck, even if it's Sam Darnold, it's not like, I know Sam Darnold had a great year with Minnesota Vikings, but at the same time, though, too, if you're looking at it, he had Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, one of the best offensive coaches in the league, and Kevin O'Connell. And now he would be going to another great coach in the NFL. I don't think Mike Tomlin would be considered really an offensive coach, but at the same, he's just a great head coach, knows how to game plan against opponents. So Sam Darnold is losing a lot offensively. So I don't think that if the Steelers sign him, I wouldn't expect Sam Darnold to be this great guy that he was this year. And so I think you go with Justin Fields, or maybe I'm a Falcons fan, so you can have Kirk Cousins. Give us a seventh. Go ahead. We'll take it. But it's going to be interesting what they do at that position here, and it's some of the other skill position players.
And I guess more of what I was saying there at the beginning was just I don't necessarily know if there's any outside solutions to the quarterback problem this year. I think they just need to either bring back Russell Wilson or Justin Fields and just kind of run it back. There's just no major moves that I think that they should make it at that position, because Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, who are already, I know they're free agents, but are already on the team, are as good as most of the quarterbacks out there. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that situation plays out. I agree with you going and getting a wide receiver too. I personally think Emeka Egbuka for this situation, because they already have their big play threat in George Pickens. Go get a guy where three out of four of his catches are going to be first downs. Like, go get that chain mover for this offense. And Jack Bash, like you mentioned, is another really interesting option there as well. So all in all, I mean, the Steelers, they have a decent bit of assets this offseason, and they already have a coaching advantage. They have good players on this roster. They just kind of need a little bit more from their role players. And I think that this is going to be a potential offseason where they could really add that. And then if the quarterback play can be what it was throughout the first like 2/3 of the season, then I think that this could be a real team that kind of has a shot to go deep just by playing good fundamental football.
Yeah, there are some things I think that are going to be holding them back, though, next year. Like I need to see them address. I think they need to get more consistent secondary. One, they got to stay healthier. They did get some pretty serious injuries, especially on that offensive line and also on the defensive side of the ball as well. But to your point, though, is like they have some of the explosive play, like TJ Watt. I think can take over games. Go no further than look at Week 1 when they played my Atlanta Falcons. TJ Watt was the sole reason why the Steelers won that game, because he just took over the game and the Falcons offense couldn't do anything. But I think if they get another good secondary guy, there's DJ Reed was a guy, another target that they could get in free agency. I think that would be very interesting. Draft well and address the skill position players here, because I think that the difference between them versus some of the teams that are playing this week in the conference championship games is just that explosiveness level. Like consistent explosiveness, never. It's really, for this offense, it's George Pickens or bust, I feel like.
Yeah.
And against weaker teams, they have enough consistent power. Mike Tomlin's such a great coach that they can beat those guys. And that's why I think they can keep being in the playoffs as well, being a wild card team, getting over 500. But I'm curious to see what moves they make to help them get over that hump like you're talking about here, because they're in a sticky situation with the quarterback position. They're already going to have one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league, probably at your position next year, no matter who it is. Yeah. And then if they don't address the receiver position, they try and roll back with a Van Jefferson, Scott Miller, or something like that. I think this is going to really hinder their offensive explosiveness, because teams can really hone in on George Pickens. And then Pat Freiermuth is a good tight end, one of the better ones in the league, yes, but he's not like earth-shattering like a Dalton Kincaid or Mark Andrews or Brock Bowers or what Travis Kelce was, if that makes sense. He's just a solid Pittsburgh Steelers tight end, in my opinion, and so, but it'll be interesting. To your point, I mean, let's see what they do this offseason. And like, if they make the right moves, I could see them being one of the better teams in the AFC. But more likely than not, I see them maybe just being a kind of a mediocre team, an above average team,
an above 500 like wild card playoff team, where we're kind of where I feel like they have been the last like 4 or 5 years.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you want to see the Pittsburgh Steelers do in the 2025 offseason. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.